all together.
What is going on, everybody? I am Jabby Kaway, joined by Andrew Flash Gordon.
What's up?
And we just got done watching Tiger 3. This is our non-spoiler and spoiler review. I'll let you know loud and clear when we make our transition from one to the other, so you can depart onto another video if you don't want to hear any spoilers. If you want to watch the movie along with us, you have to join our Patreon or our YouTube memberships, because we cannot show our cut down on YouTube. We'd like to, but there are hurdles in the way that won't allow us to do it, is the easiest way to put it. And so, please join our memberships or our, Patreon page, and you can get access to both, I believe. I think that's how Chara set it up. You can watch the cut down or just do the whole watch along. Up to you. And so, all right. Anyway, non-spoiler for Tiger 3. Before we jump into that, subscribe, bell icon, all notifications. Pretty please vote this up. Let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. I guess the short rundown of my feelings is I enjoyed this more than I anticipated that I would. I know that you really enjoyed part 1 and part 2. I enjoyed part 1, and part 2 I liked, but I did find it a little exhausting. This one, it did wear me down a little bit by the end, even though it was less than 3 hours. But overall, I think I enjoyed the experience of it. There are caveats. There are things I didn't like, but generally speaking, it was positive. It was fun. So how about you?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it too. Yeah, I'd say part 2 is definitely a bit exhausting too, but I did like how extremely dark it got, but this was definitely less dark than that one, but it was extremely entertaining, and there were things about this one. I didn't think the main villain was as fleshed out as I'd like him to be. His motivation and what he did. I mean, I understood it, but again, not where I personally wanted to go. But having said that, the action, the hand-to-hand combat, and some of the cameos, which again, when we get to the spoilers, we will talk about. Awesome stuff. Overall, and I loved the, of course, the chemistry between the two main leads and the family dynamics and all that, and how personal it got in the story. I really loved all that stuff.
Salman Khan is definitely an idealist, and he expresses that very strongly through his films. You look at something like, not Bajrangi Bhaijaan. What the hell is the name? Is that what it's called? Yeah, it is Bajrangi Bhaijaan. I was correct. Through that film, since then, you can see that he is very much about peace between India and Pakistan. And he expresses that very bravely through his films. It seems like everybody's cool with it, generally speaking. He showed in part 2, I distinctly remember both flags, soldiers together, fighting together for a common cause. And that is something I admire about Salman Khan and his films, because I'm an idealist as well. I know that is naive, but I do hope for more and more peace as time goes on, or working together of some kind. And so, yeah, you see a bit of that going on here. It's baked into the premise of the film. His wife is a former Pakistani soldier, right? And so there's that. You have a lot of the tropes that you get with this franchise of high octane action, less comedy than we got in the first film. I remember my experience of that first movie, there was a lot of comedy in the courtship between Salman Khan and Katrina Kaif, and that was really fun to experience. And when you get into part 2, you still have this lightheartedness with the familial aspect, but it's really at its core, a big over-the-top action film. And so part 3, it felt like it brought the fun back, particularly in the latter half of it. The foundation of it, still very serious. What we're dealing with is terrorism. And so, it's a very, very, not to be repetitious, it's a very serious situation in the film. You have some action moments that get really crazy. It did an interesting balancing act between serious, grounded moments with Emraan Hashmi and the over-the-top action, which was enjoyable. To what you were saying about Emraan Hashmi, I actually liked him in this film. I thought he was a cool villain. He stuck with me, at least as of this conversation. He stuck with me more than I can recall of the villains from the previous installments. I don't even remember who they were or what they did, but Emraan Hashmi, I thought he lent a quality to the film overall that I enjoyed. Was he as fleshed out as he could have been? Perhaps not, but I thought that we got more dimension from him than we typically might with a villain. His foundation, or the premise with him, is very simple. He is an extremist, he's from his perspective, he is a Pakistani loyalist, so much that the people in charge don't even know what they're doing, and we got to get rid of them and like really lead Pakistan to being the righteous nation or whatever, the ultimate nation that it's supposed to be. I mean, this is not too detached from what we've seen in real life. You know, it's like it's often not even the politicians who are running things, it's the military. At least that's my understanding of things, being an American and seeing what I see from my limited vantage point. And so I thought it was nicely borrowing from real life stuff to tell functioning, fun, over-the-top action story.
Yeah, like I said, I understood his motivations, and I mean, I would have preferred him to be a little more fleshed out. But I mean, it is what it is. I loved the actor's performance. What would you say his name was again?
Emraan Hashmi.
I don't think I've seen AKA Mark Ruffalo. I don't think I've seen anything else he's been in, but he had this gravitas about him, and I always did feel like whenever he was on screen, like he was actually a credible threat to these characters who, that nothing's going to happen to them, but still, like, whenever he was on screen, I did feel like, that again, he was a credible threat. So, from that perspective, I did appreciate his character, and I always felt like he could be one step ahead of them in terms of intelligence and how resourceful he was. And again, from the revenge aspect, that I did like, with what happened with his wife, although like he kind of put her in that situation. That was kind of his own doing. I get why, again, but I'd say that was one of my weaker points of the film overall. I was very entertained by the film. I'm glad that we, again, went away from, more of the lighthearted. We went back to the roots of the first film. That's what I was glad to see, even though I still really appreciated what they did in the second film, because I always say, like, when you're going into these sequels, it's good to, I mean, it's okay to be safe and, do things that worked for you in the first film, but it's more risky to do things that are different and ballsy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With regards to Emraan Hashmi and his contributions to the story, he's the element that was the groundedness for me. Like the opening of the film sort of set that tone for me. The opening, minor spoiler if you haven't seen the movie, is just setting up Zoya's backstory. And with that, it feels less over the top and spectacular. It was almost a different film in a way. It was complete, because like when I'm thinking of, just generally speaking, a Salman Khan film, I'm thinking big,
over the top
explosions, people flying through the air, action sequences, right? And so the way it executed that opening, I was like, oh, like this is more real, so to speak, in the way that it handled things. And I thought that was actually kind of cool. And every time he was on screen, he was very captivating. And the scene work that was being done there with Emraan Hashmi was like, oh, these feel like, not in a bad way, but this feels like a different film, right? In that it's conducting itself more like a serious espionage. And so I'm not used to seeing that with Salman Khan films, but it's like, it alternates between that and then a sequence with Salman Khan doing some crazy stuff and flying through the air and grabbing on a rope and jumping from a helicopter and all that stuff. It's wild stuff. And I thought that, like I said, it was a fun balancing act. The other element here that I was watching with a careful eye was the fight scenes. And so I grew up studying martial arts and creating fight scenes. And so I, was very observant of what they were doing. And I thought that the choreography was very creative. It was definitely choreography that I don't see too often, whether it's India or America. There was like stuff they were doing that seemed like it was new and experimental. Because Salman Khan films are kind of meant for a family, even though it's like action and people getting shot, I think it's meant as a family watch, right? And I think Salman Khan is aware of that. And so there was a towel bathhouse sequence. I love
that sequence.
Right? And it was with my friend Michelle Lee. And, they can only go so far because ultimately this film is meant to be watched by families. They couldn't go as, I guess, risque as I would have liked. That said, I thought that there was some clever choreography in there.
Yeah.
The thing I didn't like was that sometimes it felt like it was overshot and over-edited, and like it would have been cool if they could have taken as much time as you would with like a music video, right? Like I've heard that they spend a month or months on a music video sometimes because it's so important, and I wish that the same time and care and craft was taken with the fight scenes, where it's not just cool choreography, but like the actors are really like so prepped in these fight scenes that you can take that time to shoot longer takes and get better coverage and not have it be chopped up in the edit so much.
Yes.
I understand that part of the reason for that, the intent, is to create a kineticism to it, a momentum to it. I get it. It's just that sometimes it's happening so quick and I'm like, what? Sometimes I'm like, where's the connection from that move to that move? It's just like, it's just nuts. But That said, this was among the better fight scenes I've seen.
Yeah.
You know, so...
Yes, we want IP, man. We don't want Taken 3 is what Jabby is basically trying to say in regards to the editing and the hand-to-hand choreography, because, it can definitely be a throw-off when it's just choppy and all over the place. But to your point, I agree. There were a lot of sequences from the hand-to-hand and the action sequences where I was like, this is very inventive and creative, and I was really appreciating a lot of what we were seeing. If they would have taken a little bit more time and done that, great, but... that wasn't clearly the main focus. I mean, they were trying to just make sure that they were, telling the espionage story of it all, and which I get. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can only get your blueberry cheesecake. So
the music, there's
so good.
There is a clear sense of being inspired by two things. First off, you have the universe aspect of it, where it's this connected film series, like kind of like the MCU, right? That's become a whole thing. It's only borrowing from Marvel insofar as things are related to each other, right? That's a very loose borrowing. But the more apparent borrowing feels like Mission Impossible. And it's like the way you have this team. I know that we've had teams in the past films, but like this really felt like a Mission Impossible kind of team in execution, and then the music. And so I understand that throughout it, the theme song of Tiger is there, and it's like that's Tiger's theme. But the thing that's kind of bridging it all together, that orchestral sound with the synth and all the drums and stuff like that, it did feel very much like Mission Impossible to me, but not in a bad way. I appreciated what was inspiring it, and I thought they did a nice rendition of the Tiger theme with all this.
Yeah, I was about to say, but you stole my thunder. Yeah, the remix of the Tiger theme, because there's only so many times you can play that theme. They really did a nice job of remixing that theme. And also to your point too, I never felt like they were ripping off the Mission Impossible stuff in terms of the music. I thought it was more homage-y and hey, we're just paying respect kind of thing. So
I just took it as inspiration more than anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just the way they blended all the sounds together was really nice. The one negative, I guess, to the music, and this is something I've seen in Indian films a lot, I guess, is that the music kind of never goes away. And maybe that's to keep the sense of keeping people engaged with the story, to guide the emotions. I'm coming at it as an American, and so I understand, 7-8 years in, how can you still feel this way, Jabby? It's like I watch a lot of American films too, so it's like that influence hasn't gone away. It's more like I'm film-wise bilingual, right? Yeah. And so I get it, and I understand it, but I'm also aware, the music is constantly there and never, leaves for, a long time. And so I sometimes wish the music would take a break and not hit every single moment in the film.
I feel you.
Because it sort of doesn't allow me to just be
breathe.
Too invested in what's happening, right? Because it's just almost feels like a montage sometimes when you have too much music wall to wall. That said, the music that was there was fun and exciting.
I was gonna just to add to your point. I mean, there is, as a composer, you need to know when to take a break too, and when to insert certain things. Just a good point, like for Dark Knight Rises, for instance, when Batman and Bane are fighting each other for the first time in such a cool action sequence there. No music. Hans Zimmer turned off the music and let them battle each other there. So, I mean, and he easily could have played music there. They're battling each other out. Yeah. So just adding to your point there.
Yeah. They did have music at the end.
Yeah.
At the end of
No, I know. But I'm just saying, as a composer, you need to know when to insert that music there and not have it there. Sure. So I totally get what you're saying.
So I think that we've covered all the major bases that we can cover. I mean, we didn't talk about Salman Khan or Katrina Kaif too much. Katrina Kaif looked great.
Always.
She did a fantastic job with the action sequences. For the most part, I do wish that some of these people maybe had training, actual, because that's what they do with American films sometimes. I know for Black Hawk Down, those actors actually had 2 weeks of proper military training.
Oh wow!
There was, for the most part, Katrina Kaif was great. Don't get me wrong. The action she was doing looked fantastic. I don't know how much was her and how much was a double, but it looked wonderful. It's just that sometimes there's nuances where it's it would have been cool if there was more training involved to just get every little detail of precision and movement and whatnot, right? Salman Khan, he's got the charisma that Salman Khan has. It was a fun time. There wasn't really anything that stood out from other Salman Khan films I've watched in the last few years. It was just nothing faces him really, unless there's an emotional thing that traumatizes him.
Yes.
But like, jumping from an explosion onto a catwalk, stories of many stories above ground zero or whatever it's called, or just being way up high on a skyscraper doesn't faze him. Like running from explosions and guns and whatnot, never scared. That's just very much like the Salman Khan action hero kind of thing, right?
Yes.
But overall, it was a fun time. So that's what, it was a fun time pass.
Yeah, and to what you were saying, like I was too engulfed with how freaking good looking Katrina Kaif was to notice those nuances to, is she really performing this? So, yeah.
Yeah. No, but overall, it was a fun, they did a good job. They have good chemistry together. So.
But there was that one sick move she did where she was, I know you were like, turning the reaction like, why is that guy holding on to her? When she was kind of doing the 360. That was so cool. But
all right, so we'll talk about some spoilers.
Tigers in the movie.
Yeah. Many of you already know that SRK was making a cameo in this. I didn't know that Hrithik would be making a cameo as well, so that was pretty cool. I feel like a lot of that action for Hrithik's cameo was not done by Hrithik. Like it was one of those things where they probably had a double for most of it who kind of had his shape, and then they just brought Hrithik in for the close-ups because then they don't have to have him there too long. But SRK's cameo was thorough. Like, I hate to spoil this for you, but it was as thorough as as the cameo in Pathan, and so it was just a really fun action sequence.
I'm sorry, you mean Tiger had a cameo in Pathan?
I don't know what you want me to say, dude. You can ruin it for yourself.
Your answer just ruined it for me.
Don't ask any questions if you don't want to know the answers.
Damn it!
You did that to yourself.
I still want to see it.
Yeah. So
now I have to act.
I have to have this conversation with the audience, though. The cameo in Pathan was pretty exciting and quite the surprise. I forgot that there would be a cameo by SRK in this film. Like, it was the last thing I was expecting. It came in at a time I was just like, oh, that must be Zoya. Like, why would? And then he shows up, and it's like a really fun and funny action sequence.
Yeah, and then they were paying homage to two Indiana Jones films within 20 seconds, which was cool as well. But yeah, I mean, I've never obviously seen Pathan, however you say it. But yes, obviously, I have seen two other films that those two have been in together, which I love both of them, Kuch Kuch Hote Hai and Karan Arjun. They see the charisma and have such good chemistry, and it's just one of the coolest cameos I've ever seen, and I didn't expect it, nor did I expect the length of time of that cameo. It was such a wonderful reveal, and like you, I thought that was Zoya as well. So to see that it was SRK, that was so freaking awesome, and I did not know there was a shared universe between those two characters. Now I really want to react to that. Audience, let know in the comments section that I want to react to that film. But yeah, that was such a cool action sequence. My only complaint about that is it's a nitpick. Doesn't ruin the experience for me. I wanted a longer hand-to-hand combat between Salman Khan and the XL guy.
The bigger guy. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't much there. I mean, in general, the only fight scene that had a real trade back and forth of blows was with Emraan Hashmi.
At the end, yeah.
So I guess they saved it for that. It would have been nice to have a little showdown between Salman Khan and that big dude, because it felt like a setup. It's like It's like Chekhov's gun. You show a gun, you got to fire it at some point. That's the rule of Chekhov's gun.
Right.
And it felt like this big dude was a gun that never got fired. Like, yes, he did a couple things, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't satisfying. In general, I think my complaint with a film like this is that I never feel a sense of danger for our heroes.
Yeah.
It's like there's just no sense that they're ever going to get killed. It's like, no, they're just going to blow through this. It'll be fine. It's fun. Like, the music's big, and the action sequences are big, and they're dancing around, and like they're joking back and forth between him and SRK while shooting out all these soldiers. It's all done with it's tongue in cheek, and so it's fine,
Yeah, I mean, and piggybacking off what you just said is as entertaining, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I know it's weird me saying that as I'm complaining, but you're seeing like miniguns and machine guns going off, and nothing is hitting them. And I get it. We got to suspend disbelief so we can have these fun, energetic, over-the-top, bombastic action sequences, which are amazing, by the way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like there's no sense of danger at all. So I totally get where you're coming from there. Yeah. But again, so entertaining. So it is what it is.
The opening had this motorcycle sequence with Salman Khan, which was pretty thrilling. I didn't like how much it seemed obvious there was green screen or CGI face replacement.
There was.
It was happening on occasion. However, I thought that the overall I don't know what you want to call it. The composition of the action was pretty fun, and the ideas were cool. Like, that's the thing is, like, throughout, all of the action had really cool ideas. Sometimes it gets a little bit exhausting seeing like just a platoon of guys firing at your hero and not one is able to hit him. But it was doing some spectacular over-the-top stuff that was just, it was fun. I think that's ultimately what you're supposed to come away with anyway with a film like this.
And well storyboarded too for that sequence, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah. And also, too, just really quickly, getting back to the whole Zoya backstory at the very beginning, I'm very curious, too. I mean, I don't mind that they didn't reveal to us who was responsible for it. I just found it very interesting that Zoya literally was survived by the dad forgetting something in the kitchen, because like I still like have questions like, did he know that was going to happen? And then he was, I'm so still a little confused by how that happened, or that was just a lucky mistake.
I think it was a lucky mistake. I think that's the idea, because it never comes back.
Yeah, at all.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is fine, I guess, but yeah, I was very curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of that was just to show you the origin of how Zoya and Atish know each other.
Yes.
I mean, that feels like it could have been fleshed out a little bit better, I suppose, but we did have the other sequence with them where Zoya was supposed to assassinate someone and she chose not to.
Right.
There's like goofy things in the movie that don't make a heck of a lot of sense, but I sort of just chuck it and go, it's fine, it's an over-the-top action film. It's that you have this backstory where Zoya Akhtar and Salman Khan, Katrina Kaif and Salman Khan are like within proximity of each other, right? It's like they never met until the first movie, right? Like the way they met in that film. But it's just a little bit bizarre because Zoya is in that room that Emraan Hashmi, I'm mixing up the names. Katrina Kaif is in that room that Emraan Hashmi walks out in handcuffs from. And no one clears the room.
Right.
Like, that just seems like standard operating procedure. Like, you got to clear the room, make sure there's no threats in there, etc. And she, like, they never showed her to, like, go out the window or something like that. It's like, surely Salman Khan would have met her in that moment, but it never comes up, and so you're just supposed to ignore it. It's refrigerator logic. It's fine. And so, yeah, like, there's some stuff that just seems odd in the film that's never quite properly explained, and you're just supposed to let it go. Like, there at one point, Salman Khan tells the general, you're going to go out there, you're going to say this is your plan, blah, blah, blah. And then Emraan Hashmi assassinates him.
Yeah, that didn't make a lot of sense.
And I'm like, why was the general, what was the motivation for him to follow through with what Salman Khan told him to do before he got shot? There's really no reason for him to do anything. It's like he can go out there and be like, they're in there, go get them.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So some stuff like that happens in the film sometimes.
I did love, too, that they brought back, because I said during the beginning of the reaction, which check out on Patreon or memberships, when they brought back Hassan from the second film, The Surrogate Son, I love that they brought that back, because I wasn't sure if they were going to bring him back, and just, you know, he brought back this emotional dynamic for the unit, because obviously, you know, we're done with Junior. He's off to the side now. I was really sad with what happened. I thought they would have been a little, even though they were in the moment, even afterwards, just a little more emotionally distraught from what had happened. But again, kind of what you said, it was very poetic how he went out, because literally how he went out is exactly how Tiger saved him. You know, he was vested up and...
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing is, you sort of just have to... It's weird, because at the end of the film, he's smiling and eating blueberry cheesecake, and it's like, where's the sadness for this surrogate son? There's none. It's like the movie's got to end on a smile and a wink and a cameo appearance by Hrithik. You can't have any lingering sadness. It just seems a little bit odd. What furthermore is odd is the fact that the son had to sacrifice himself at all. He had a bunch of like grenades on him and stuff like that. It's just like,
throw them.
Couldn't you throw one or throw the vest? It's like you spent all that time running, and it just seems odd that like that is less effort than taking a grenade and throwing it, you know? And there was plenty of time after the explosion for Salman Khan to be like, okay, you go to the bunker now and go and get the president, the PM, whatever, and go do this, and the third, and get her out of there. I'm gonna bring him down there. It's like, how did you have time to say all of that? You were just like dizzy from the explosion and dealing with the fact that this surrogate son just died. Like, I don't know. Again, you're throwing all that out. It doesn't matter. It's popcorn, you know?
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
He doesn't matter. It's just like for the sake of the action. It's that the film takes time sometimes to have emotional moments. And it's like, okay, what do you want me to have? Do you want me to be emotional, or do you want me to just have fun in its action? Like that's the confusing part of it for me, you know.
And also to a callback to the second film I loved with the raw agents and the what were the guys who worked for Pakistan? ISI. I love they're so different, the contrast between the two of them, but they work so well together. And I love how far apart they were, and just seeing eye to eye in the second film, and then they just found this sense of bonding in that film, and just seeing again eye to eye with each other in this film. And again, when they met in this film, like Zoya and Tiger had been accused of stealing those codes, the knock list as we called it here, the PAL, whatever it was. But
no, the PAL is something else. But yeah,
whatever it was, the nuclear thing, whatever it was. But point is, I like, again, there was that sense of camaraderie from the second film that they had gotten. There was like a brotherhood, even though they were completely on separate sides, and I appreciated that, because that was one of the things I loved from the second film, was their chemistry and their interactions. I'm so happy that they brought that back.
Yeah,
I loved them seeing them. And I was sad that we lost two of them. I knew there was something up with that one other guy, and that was actually an interesting reveal that he was Emraan Hashmi. His sister was, or his wife rather, was the sister of the guy who was like the rogue agent. I thought that was an interesting reveal. No? You didn't like it?
It's weird, because if that guy who betrayed Salman Khan and Katrina Kaif have been part of this team, is so to speak, right? Like, they've been friends a long time.
Yeah.
So they've just been like holding on to this secret for how many years? You know what I mean? Because did they work together in part 2? The guy who betrayed them?
I don't remember. Again, it's been a while since I've seen Tiger 2, but I don't remember. His name was
whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't remember him.
It doesn't matter.
In the second
fine.
movie.
It's fine. I don't care.
Captain
it's fine. Like, my point is, it's fine. All of the nonsense is fine. It just doesn't matter. It's like you have all these crisscrossing of things that's just like, wait.
Turn your brain off.
If you just think too hard about it, it's just like, you're just gonna hurt yourself. It's fine.
Turn your brain off. Look, action.
All of it is fine. Exactly. It's just explosions and fireworks and blah blah blah, and then patriotism at the end. That's all. That's all that matters. So overall, like I said, though, like the flaws and all, it was enjoyable, and it was more. I was entertained. That's what matters at the end of the day. Is I had a good time, and I had some laughs, and it was some riveting action.
And I'm excited now for Tiger 4. I mean, you got my boy Hrithik. I'm so excited, and obviously at the end there with that whole, what is that, mid-credits or end-credits scene, seems like a credible threat, which is something we've been begging for after 3 films now. Like, can we actually feel like these characters like are truly in threatening situations?
Well, Kabir's he's a good guy, so I don't think that he's meant as a bad guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I take back what I just said. Thank you.
I have no idea what the plan is there. But
never mind.
Some kind of overlap with the cops. So.
Okay. Well, we shall see. But either way, Hrithik is in Tiger 4, and I'm excited.
Yeah. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out. I'm Jabby Kuwait. This is
Andrew Flash Gordon.
Peace out.